Hey winner, welcome back. Identity here from Phil with Skill. And today's daily episode will be completely committed to Hideo Kojima and his new title of Death Stranding, which I have a rather good idea on what the game will be actually about. I'm taking a big leap of faith here and a big risk because we have so little information. But I think if you put the pieces together, all these indications about the person itself, about his backgrounds and stuff going on, and especially analyzing the trailer a little bit, I think you're getting a good idea. But before we go into the trailer, we'll start a little bit about the person, Hideo Kojima. And even though I don't want to go too deep into things and just talk about the aspects of which will lead hopefully to a good understanding what his new game is about. Some point from me. So Hideo Kojima, everyone know it. He recently has a falling out with Konami. He created his own studios. And of course, a person who is kind of very known as a magnificent game developer, authority in game development with his own studio. He definitely wants to put another mark on games, on game development, on the games industry. I think that's something he expects from himself, and I think people expect it from himself too. And of course, he doesn't want to disappoint those people. Obviously, with Death Stranding, he wants to create a new genre. He said it. Now, what will this genre be? The games which he participated in producing or creating were, first of all, always very cinematic. He's always very cinematic and very, very epic. And the trailer for Death Stranding is no exception in this regard. The next thing which Hideo Kojima always did was trying to be highly innovative. Always pushes the border of game development. And I stumbled across my researches about this person on the Wikipedia about the game Boktai. Boktai is a game for the Game Boy Advance, and the really interesting thing about this game is that it has a light sensor in the game itself. So the light sensor determines, okay, you're in the sunlight, there's light around you, and what happens when this happens is that your gun in the game is charged, because this gun in the game is fueled by sunlight or light in general. So the more light this cartridge gets, the faster the gun in-game charges, and the more frequent you can use it. If you leave it in the dark for a specific period of time and shoot all your saved up energy, you can't shoot anymore in the game. That's entirely crazy. In Metal Gear Solid, the last one, we had this woman, this woman who has barely any clothes on, is very sexual in the game. Although of course nothing is really shown, but you get kind of the hint if you just Google it and YouTube it, and you will see what I mean. But the thing why she is so barely clothed is because she's breathing through her skin, and she is like doing some photosynthesis with the sunlight, right? So people could say, yeah, great idea to have a half-naked chick in a game. Anyway, I don't want to discuss that part, but actually, her behavior is kind of important too, but I will come back to this later. Anyway, I don't want to discuss if it's a good thing, if it's just an excuse to have a naked woman, but the scene comes through again, that this, a little bit like we had it in the other game, which was Boktai, this thing with a light, with life, and I say life because if, like a woman who is doing photosynthesis is kind of a very nature connected, because photosynthesis, humans usually don't do this, and it's very sexual. That's kind of you can put it on a balance with the equivalent of the word saying she's life, because sex, reproducing, stuff, photosynthesis, whatever. You get my point. Anyway, and also we have suddenly the trailer coming up of Death Stranding, and Death Stranding and the trailer starts off with a quote, with a very beautiful quote: "To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a white flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour." It was said. It's a quote from William Blake, Auguries of Innocence, and I gotta admit I have no idea what that means. I'm too stupid to understand it, so we're just skipping it. Anyway, so interesting enough, the trailer itself after the quote starts with death. Like, okay, we have first the blending into sand cranes. Well, we just talked about sand cranes. Obviously, it makes sense to start the trailer with the sand cranes, yeah, from a video regie point of view. So that's already golden star for you, Hideo Kojima. From Identity here, I know that means a lot to you. Anyway, so we're starting with death, the whole attitude of death, and very interesting is because you see some creatures lying on the ground, totally not moving, totally dead, obviously, yes. So we have the Sony interactive entertainment coming up, this writing, and then you have those lines going away from it, and now is the question a little bit. And so what exactly are those lines going away? My first impression when I saw it, it's like, okay, it's blood, you know, it's like dripping down. We had this somewhere else in some other games where I felt reminded it's like blood. So later on, when you watch the trailer, you have those strings. So like, for example, the main character is connected to the baby, which I will talk soon about. And suddenly, you know, you have those lifeline. And if you check in the trailer, the baby has the lifeline at his belly button. So and is connected apparently somewhere in the further down half of the hero or protagonist or main actor in this game. So yeah, lifeline feels really good. And then I feel like reminded, okay, actually maybe it's not blood because it doesn't behave really like blood. But what about like what I feel really reminded, and it suits this whole theme of life and death and light and darkness. Like when you have a little plant, and it starts growing, it's exactly like this. It's like a white line going through the earth till it can come out above the earth and, you know, start spreading into a flower. So that 100% what I feel reminded of, and I don't think that I'm wrong. Interesting though enough that it's going down. It's not going up. So maybe those are roots going down. And as maybe someone who is totally into theories, you could of course analyze which letters are precisely used to have those roots, lifelines developing away from. But again, it's going down. It's not going up. So that's maybe an indication that, hey, interesting. Anyway, so we're going to the main protagonist. The camera is shifting, going still over the dead bodies, and suddenly those hand gloves appear in the sand. And if you see it, they first is the right hand, then it's the left hand. So it's like something is crouching through the sand, and it will result into going into the body of the main hero after, you know, like pushing down and the water is coming from underneath. Could be interesting, could be just a cinematic effect. Not sure if there's this, but after all, we're at the beach, so this is something which happens. And it's like when you hear actually the start of the music, it's time to go. Okay, so that's interesting as well. So again, time to go could be an indication of death. So what I would interpret it as, hey, this could be totally like, I don't know, like a soul, like a ghost, like arriving in the limbos after dying somewhere, and then now going somewhere to search a new host. You don't know. Anyway, so we have this protagonist lying on the ground with his futuristic looking handcuffs. No idea. Maybe it's his like a symbol of his reminder of his physical appearance. If you want to stay with a soul ghost theme, I don't know. Just throwing out ideas which you get through it, and you have suddenly the baby lying in the sand. Oh my goodness, with a string attached to its belly button, and it's being picked up. And it's being picked up by Norman Reedus. He's holding it. I gotta admit that, man, I think that, you know, it's still great, the facial expression what video game engine can develop today. It's still not the way I would like it to have. Something is off there, but I wouldn't even tell what. So Norman Reedus, suddenly the baby is gone, and you have all this all this he looks at his hands, and his hands are completely covered in black oil. I would say it's black oil. I think that's really assistant. Which again is like, you know, if you go into the theme of Quid, she's doing photosynthesis. You know, like, hey, nature is awesome, nature is beautiful. Hey, that's really actually cool. Quid is like a character to show that nature is beautiful and sexy. You know. Good stuff. So suddenly, this guy, the baby is gone. You know, baby is always pretty awesome. You know, like, hey, baby is another indication of actually life, right? That's a pure definition of life, a newborn child. So the baby is gone, and what he has is like completely black oil. And I think that I'm pretty right to say that Hideo Kojima is a person who thinks of the environment, who you know, like, tries to get a message across, pro environment, pro nature. I think that's I'm pretty safe to say that you can do this with what we discussed already earlier. And so now suddenly he has a baby, which kind of like, it's like, you know, he's dead, all the dead bodies. Then he is lying like dead in a fetus position on the beach, which indicates he's pretty much dead too. And then suddenly there's movement in him, and you see the baby with a string attached to him. It's like, and then the baby vanishes, but he's alive. You know, so it feels like the baby gave him new life. There's new life coming into him, you know, like, I don't want to say he sucked the baby off, but that would be mean, you know, like, but definitely there's a connection, okay, and he's reborn. Let's say it like this, the metaphor is there, he is like reborn, so he is alive again, and then he looks at his hands. It's like humanity, you know, humanity was born on the nature is good, everything, high five, sexy, I don't know why sexy, but yeah, sexy, always sexy, sexy is good, and suddenly he looks at his hands in oil, and oil is like the picture, the metaphor for industrial revolution, industrial progress, and of course a big chaos, the big hazard which human is doing to the nature. And I think oil is a really good metaphor, good picture for it. So suddenly his hands are in covered, and which is interesting, those picture usually you have like in action movies, in horror movies, where the main actor is like, oh my god, I killed a person. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the same thing. And so after this horror, oh my god, I'm responsible, you know, like, for the death of something. So you see the little hand marks on his legs in black as well, like from the baby, like he sucked in the baby is now part of him, and the baby is now leaving this new life, leaving his handprints on him, because when the black fades away from the handprint, there is like a white it leaves a shadow like behind, so you can see that it had an impact on the main actor. So, and the main actor has a lot of handprints on him, so, you know, there's a lot of impact happened on the main actor. So the main actor is like the result of his past, of impressions of other life forms, and in this part human, because I don't think there's any other handprint on him. So the people maybe he left behind, if we're still in this metaphor that this is the afterlife, you know, that those handprints pretty much will leave, okay, like the human he had in his previous life. That was kind of something I would suggest. So the handprints are going away, and it's going towards the horizon, and then he looks, you know, like up, uses those handprints from the little baby. Oh my god, so much death, all the fish are dead, but hey, he is willing to totally, you know, face it. His eyes and his facial expression is like, yeah, I gotta confront whatever is ahead of me. And he stands up, and oh my god, he has like a cross, like a big ass scarf on his stomach, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Now the question, he doesn't have a belly button anymore. And now the question is, oh my god, was this baby taken out of his belly? Because he was in a lot of pain right earlier. When he was grabbing the baby and holding it, it's like crying and being super sad. And now you see, maybe, oh my god, he was maybe pregnant. Which freaks me out like fuck, yeah? That's freaking. A man? I became a man because I don't want to get pregnant. Just saying. Anyway, jokes aside, so maybe what's from him now in nature, that would be the next evolution. If you go again to Metal Gear Solid and Quid, is basically like the next evolution of human mankind, right? She can do photosynthesis. She's sexy. Sexy is always good. But anyway, so maybe now man getting pregnant is the next thing. But maybe I'm just throwing stuff here around. So anyway, big connection between him and the baby. Still no belly button. However, this scene is more important for me that there is no belly button, because belly button, if we're sticking with the live ropes and live strings, the coral thing which connects the baby in the womb to the mother is kind of the live cord per se, right? That's kind of like the basic indication of everything. Anyway, and so that's super interesting, but we're leaving it there. And then of course those things which he has around his neck, another indication that maybe it could be dog tags, maybe it's a reminder, but if it's afterlife, technically you can't take anything with him. So he has those hands like imprints on his body, which should kind of indicates emotional connection, and I think it's a positive emotional connection. Those handprints are more like, yeah, those are the people he left behind in a positive manner, this which defined him, which gave him strength, which pushed him. And now suddenly he has his dog tags or the things around his neck, which is like completely like opposite of the imprints. So I believe those dog tags are kind of like, yeah, those the sins he committed. That's completely my interpretation, but it's my interpretation and I'm going with it. So, which would kind of make sense, you know, you're destined by the loved ones which touched you in life, and in this regard, because he has his handprints, it's actually, yeah, they touched you. And those big clunky things which are hanging there, the ballast, the luggage, the sin luggage you have, and yeah, and Norman Reedus totally pulls it off, and he looks now in the distance, and then suddenly, well, this is really important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He has 6 of those sins around his necks, because now suddenly the scene will change. You look into the horizon, and he is like, you know, like he's facing the zombies, and there are those 5 flowing things there, and they look like humanoid forms, and really interesting. I was first impression was like, oh my god, those are the 4 riders of the apocalypse, but again, there are 4. Not 5. So how does that work? You could say that, you know, because they're floating in a distance over the ocean, there is a lot of like there could be the explanation why all the life from the ocean tried to get on land. It's like, oh, better trying with evolving within 5 minutes, higher chance of success than staying in the water with those things above it. That's fucking scary. And if you look precisely on the trailer, those 5 floating things are above, like it's like a tide. Maybe it's a tide, maybe it's ice. There's definitely something underneath them which separates, like shows like a clear indication, which could mean like they are pushing it, and the tide is coming, for example. The change is coming. Something is coming. Winter is coming. And of course they're approaching, they're getting bigger, they're approaching before they're vanishing. Nobody knows where they are going. But interesting to see is that all the animals in which are stranded, the bigger animals are stranded on the beach, have those life cords from their belly buttons. So very, very interesting in a regard. So And the trailer is over at this point after some writings, which again show you this thing going, these ropes, life ropes go away from it, down from it. Now the big question is, what kind of game will it actually be? Kojima said that it will be an action game. Most certainly he wants to, because he said it will be something which people don't know. People who play, what did he say, is Division or this other thing will feel familiar with very fast, but realize very soon that it's actually different. So, in this whole subject, if you think of Metal Gear Solid, he redefined the genre by doing a different attempt on an action game, and he said already this one will be an action game too, so he wants to define a different subgenre in the game, like an action game. So now the big question is, what exactly will it be? And I'm telling you, it will be a game where you will, instead of of only killing, which is he defines as a stick. You can do the stick thing. You will be able to connect to your enemies. So the functionality of the game will be like, imagine a game where you connect to any other enemy by this live set. I don't know if there would be like some indications, some restrictions when you can connect or how you connect. Maybe you need to hit him with a stick, which means basically fight him first and then you can connect it. And by doing so, you will obtain like different abilities and maybe control the other one, but being like connected, like it will give you something. So meaning keeping things alive will be like a very important strategy in this gameplay. And I'm basing this theory on the fact that he and the baby, he was dead, and then like the being connected with the baby suddenly gave him life, and the baby is an indication, the pure picture of life, new life. So I'm like 100% convinced of that. And so basically the game will be like a little bit like an action shooter, like an open world kind of stuff. And then you connect to those enemies and get more abilities, get different. You will be able to progress differently, play this game differently, control this maybe other character, but definitely it will give you some information, some new abilities on that. So basically keeping things alive will be your like as the biggest and main strategy, which would result in a game where the one game was called being a stealth game. This one will be called a life bringer game. So when we have stealth games, the other one will be called a life bringer game. I just made this up. I love it. So I'm convinced that this is something which he will play around with. It's super exciting. Definitely stick around with it. Super curious what is coming there around, because I think Kojima is definitely capable of defining a new genre, and I think this could be very interesting. And definitely it will be innovative because he likes to push those. And I think the theme of the game will be very up to date and important. It will be an important milestone in game development history. Identity out!